I'm here with Kae Pea, and she has brought these amazing art tables, which I think are so fantastic. And now you said that these are actually, this is a way of taking canvases when you don't have any room on your walls and making them into something for your studio, into a table.
Yeah, well, not necessarily canvas, but you do want to start with a hardwood panel.
Okay.
And yes, I call them artable art tables. So really all you're doing is taking some artwork that you've created and turning it into a table using either legs.
Let's do it then.
Okay, I'm ready. So I'm starting here with just a canvas,
a plain hard board, right?
Panel,
a wood panel
and
board.
You want something with an edge, so
Because
cradled
obviously
edge.
if it's a table, you want it to have a little bit of depth.
Yep, and we're just gonna gesso that baby up.
And now I know that you can create all kinds of designs, from strips to other kinds of things. Now let's talk about gesso. What is it? Why are you using gesso? Why is that important on a wood panel?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be if you were going to collage or do, you know, something like that, but this is just a nice way to prime it, to sort of make sure that your paint that you're going to layer on there doesn't soak in certain spots. It will sort of just help everything adhere and give you a nice bright white surface to work on. So I'm being pretty generous, but you know.
Somebody once explained to me, they said, you know, your paint colors, because pigment, which makes the colors, what's expensive, whereas gesso's cheap. And if you coat things with gesso, then you need less of the pigment paint in order to create your project and still have vibrant colors.
True as well. Yep. So we would just do that, and you want a nice even coverage. And then I prefer on my artable art tables to have something that isn't really have to be oriented a certain way, so like mandalas or strips or things like that. So for our sample that we're doing today, we're doing a mandala or sort of a color wheel. I still want a perfectly circular circle, so I just use
an old record, and you're going to go ahead and trace it.
Trace around it.
I've been known to use tape and all kinds of things. This looks like almost the base of this that you traced to get that other circle. Close to that.
Yeah, close to that, something I had laying around. So that didn't matter because we're going to end up painting over that and whiting it out anyway. But if you're going to do a mandala like some of the other samples that I brought, you may want to do that. So I have my circle, and I went ahead and have already, oops, oh, a little clumsy there,
knocking things over is just the way that goes.
Yeah, this is so much more space than I usually have.
I know, I work in the tiniest little area at home.
So I do have a, you know, perfectly round circle, but I don't necessarily want it to look like that. So I went ahead and traced over it this way, and then just did my little pie chart, or my little pie lines, and painted around it using just regular acrylic paint. So we'll do a little bit of that.
Now, one of the reasons I think that people really like color wheels, which is what we were talking about making, is because we like to explore the way that things interact with each other. It's always interesting to me, where it's even like you're wearing a pink shirt and, you know, a sort of lavendery blue sweater, just thinking about when you're making things, using those colors that you respond to in your clothes and all those other ways.
Well, yes, and I'm a sucker for a rainbow, so.
Yes, I love rainbows.
Oops, I'm making a mess. I'm good at that too.
You know, art is about making a mess, right?
Yeah.
It's permission to be messy.
Thank you, and you know what? It wouldn't be near as fun if it wasn't.
Right.
So we're just gonna go ahead and paint in. Of course, you know, you're gonna do this however.
And I love that you're not being that careful, and you're actually using quite a large brush.
I am, because I'm just being lazy and didn't switch. I do have a smaller brush handy, so I could switch over to that as well. You just said you loved it, but I am gonna make it life a little easier on myself.
And you're not even coloring each piece in completely. You're letting some of that gessoed background show through.
Yes, if you look at the example that I did, it sort of has a little bit of a grungy look. So I was just sort of dry brushing and not, like you said, not getting perfect coverage. The nice thing too about doing it this way, I don't really have to clean off my brush a lot in between. You can let
I notice you're not getting it wet.
Yeah, I'm using a dry brush, just again, so some of the texture or the white gesso shows through. And you know, it's real easy if you do make a mistake or something that you don't like, that's all dry, so you can just easily sort of rub away with a baby wipe.
That is also the nice thing about gessoing, which is it does make it easy to essentially erase your paint.
Yes, it gives, well, as long as it's dry, of course, which this was. So I'm just gonna go ahead and continue painting this in.
Now, I know that one of the things I've seen you do with a lot of these little art segments is that you do like to add texture of all different kinds to it too. Oh, are you mixing your own color?
I am, right on the surface, just because I wanted a little bit lighter of a blue, so I had a little bit of this other base layer. Normally I would have reached for the white gesso, but I didn't have any squeezed out, so again, just improvising.
I love that pretty teal, and what a good reminder to people that just because that's the color that came out of the tube, that doesn't mean that that's the color you have to use. And you don't even have to mix it on a separate mixing palette, you can do it directly there.
Yes, you can, and never get the exact same color again, but that's okay too. So
which is nice, because now you have a light blue and a dark blue.
Yeah, and you can let those colors sort of overmix each other. And again, I'm working really quickly because, you know, we're
not stressing about it. I think the thing is, I have found that the secret to so much art success is working quickly without thinking. Like, thinking becomes the enemy of your creativity because you start judging yourself. And I think it's much better if you just relax.
Yes, and you know what? I think sometimes it takes a long time to get there, but once you do, it's so much nicer than having to worry and stress over every little thing. And you know, usually there's really no mistakes that you can't fix. Like,
just
I got
creative
a little bit too
opportunities.
Purple, so wipe that back just a little bit.
So once you finish painting this, what is our next step?
So then I would just take my stamps or my graphite stick or graphite pencil and do some fun little, you know, doodling. I actually have this big piece of rubber that I love to use.
So this is unmounted stamp,
Yes.
and a lot of times I sort of don't know what to do with those unmounted sheets of rubber.
So this isn't real dry, but it's
Right.
okay because it might pull some of the color back.
Which
so-
would be cool.
Yeah, and you saw me ink that up. I didn't ink it very well. I just want some little
Oh,
fun,
you're getting a really
you know,
soft
yeah.
impression, which is really nice.
And then I may go ahead and, oops, there's a little fuzz there, do, you know, some on the edges.
Because remembering it's a table, so it's going to be seen from all different
Right.
directions.
And, I mean, I don't care if it's very, you know, if the impression is real.
Right. And then with the base, I know that it's just a plain wood base. You can also, of course, use legs or anything like that that you find. And you have, it looks like,
I have one
painted
sort of
it.
painted up, and I would also maybe even just run my base across. Now, I don't know if this has very much ink on it anymore, but it might have enough to just do a little bit that way. And maybe a little graphite stick to do some fun, you know, little
Extra
patterns
designs.
and whatever. You could use stamps. And then I would just take my wood adhesive, and this is a nice quick setting wood adhesive, so it doesn't take much. A little dab will do ya.
I'm so impatient about that stuff. That's always the hardest part, is I'm always like, is this a pull or a screw, or how do I do this?
This, you don't need much, and obviously I'm not
That's
going to be...
all you need for this?
I mean, I think so. I'm not going to be sitting or standing on it, or, you know...
That's true. You're not actually eating a meal at it.
Right, and then so I would just go ahead and let that set up and not do anything to it for, you know, a couple hours.
These are totally fabulous. I feel like I want to go home and take all my unfinished paintings and turn them into tables.
Okay, do that and show them to us.
Thank you, Kae Pea.
Thank
This
you
was
so
great.
much. Thank you.